Meeting to order. Chris, can we have a roll call?
Chair Agawamba.
Here, sorry.
Commissioner Ahmed.
Here.
Commissioner Chatterjee.
Here.
Commissioner John Grass.
Here.
Commissioner Lewis Miller. Commissioner Messias.
Here.
Commissioner Mukalel. Commissioner Nelson.
Here.
Commissioner Schultz.
All right, if you would like to, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so our first item of our meeting tonight on our agenda is to approve the minutes from January 16th, 2025. Do we have any additions or changes to the minutes?
Madam
Yes.
Chair and Commission, we do not have any additions or changes to the minutes.
I think I skipped the agenda. Why don't we go back to the item number 2, and we're going to see about modifications and additions to the agenda first. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda?
Madam Chair and Commission, there is no additions or changes to the agenda.
Perfect. Do we have a motion to approve then? For anyone?
Commissioner Nelson, I move to approve the agenda as stated.
Commissioner Lewis Miller, I second that.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries. Now the next is to approve the minutes. Are there any changes, additions to the minutes from the last meeting of January 16th? And if there is not, I'm going to ask for approval, our motion for approval.
Commissioner John Grass would move to approve the minutes
Okay?
from the previous meeting.
Commissioner Chatterjee, I second that.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries. And now we are going to be doing the oaths of office. And I congratulate those members who are returning for this year. Thank you again for your commitment to your community. I'm going to pass that off to Chris. Thank you, Chris.
Madam Chair and Commission, we may want to move the oaths of office. Well, I would maybe propose moving the update on the presentation of the 24 community survey results before the oaths of office and the election of vice chair. I want to make sure that Commissioner Schultz can be here for her oath of office.
That is a great idea. So we're going to start with our first item of business, which is receiving a presentation on the 2024 community survey results. And I'm going to pass it over to Emily. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for having me here. So tonight I'm going to share with you some information about this past year's community survey. The city has been doing the National Community Survey for almost 10 years, since 2020 or 2016, and we repeat the survey every 2 years to measure residents' opinions regarding city services and amenities. So I'll start off tonight with just a quick background on the survey. The survey was implemented between July 1st and August 12th of 2024, which is a similar time frame as we have implemented the surveys before. It contained 30 questions. 26 of them are standard, 3 are custom, and 1 is an open-ended question. 3,000 households were randomly selected to participate, and they received a mailing that contained paragraphs in English, Spanish, and Somali, instructing the participants on how to complete the survey in their preferred language. We also provided an open participation link, which was available for about 2 weeks. In total, we had 728 responses, which was up slightly from 2022. 493 of them were mailed in, and 235 of them came from that open participation link. In total, we had a 17% response rate, which was down slightly from 2022, but was still considered a valid response percent. Results were weighted by age, gender, race, ethnicity, and school district so that they would reflect the larger population based on the 2020 census. So our community outreach approach or strategy was to reach people multiple times in multiple ways. So we used all of our tools in our toolbox. It was in the City Connection newsletter several times. It was posted on social media, which included Facebook, Instagram, and Nextdoor. It was also sent to all registered users on Let's Talk Savage, which is our community engagement platform. And these are residents that have already self-identified as wanting to share their ideas and opinions with city leaders. We tried to increase our response by some of those pockets of residents that are typically underrepresented. So we did reach out to our community connectors at 191 and asked them to share it with their families. And we also asked you all, as CEC and community members, to share the links. And then lastly, we sent the open participation link to managers of all of our multifamily housing developments and asked them to share that with their residents. So I think I included a full copy of all of the results in your packet, and as you can see, there's a lot of data there. I won't be able to go through all of it, but I will pull out some of the things that we found most noteworthy. And we'll start by looking at what aspects of the community are most important to residents, and then which ones they perceive as being of higher or lower quality. So this is something called the Quality Importance Matrix, and it shows which community facets were given a higher or lower importance ratings and which had higher or lower quality ratings. So facets that fall on the diagonal, going from the lower left to the upper right, are those where the performance ratings align with how residents prioritize them. As you can see, we do a really good job and everything seems to be in very good balance, with nothing in that lower right-hand corner, which would be higher importance but lower quality. And then likewise, we don't have anything in the top left corner, which would be lower importance but higher quality, and that maybe could lead to indicating that there is a need to reallocate some resources based on the priority level. As in past surveys, we compare our results with more than 500 comparison communities across the nation, and for the majority of questions, we rate very similar to the national benchmark. This year, we also looked at how we compare to the 37 communities in Minnesota who also use Polco for their community survey. And this does include Scott County, it includes Prior Lake, and it includes Shakopee. And again, for the majority of questions, we rate similar to those other Minnesota communities. And just in case you're interested on the two that we rated higher on, based in Minnesota, was carpooling and online shopping.
Interesting.
And then last, we always compare our responses to our last survey. So 92 of the questions received very similar ratings. Areas that had increased were affordable high-speed internet, safety from property crime, and recycling. And a few of the areas where we saw the most significant decreases was both in recreational programs and classes, and as well as centers and facilities. Both declined significantly from 2022. And then opportunities to participate in community matters was down slightly, employment opportunity, drinking water, and economic development. So moving on to some of the key findings. First, Savage continues to be a great place to live. Our residents continue to enjoy a very high quality of life in Savage, with nearly all participants rating Savage as a great place to live. And it's not just a great place to live, it's a good place to retire. It's a nice place to raise kids. The neighborhoods are good. It's attractive and welcoming. Our residents also gave high ratings to most city services. This slide tells me that we're doing something right. So we're used to having our public safety agencies rate extremely high as far as the services that they provide. But 90% of the residents feel that the overall customer service they receive from a Savage employee is either excellent or good. And this is up slightly from 2022. And 85% of our residents, in general, rate the overall quality of services provided by the City of Savage as good or excellent. So when we look at ourselves compared to the other Minnesota communities, the City of Savage ranked in the top 10 as far as overall customer service by employees. And that includes our police, it includes our planners, it includes any employee that they have interacted with. So overall, I feel that this is a really good representation of our staff. Our employees are extremely dedicated. They take great pride in what they do. They're very committed to providing the best services possible to our residents. The survey also indicated that residents appreciate many aspects of city's leadership and governance. A strong majority of residents offered high marks for local government for treating all residents fairly, treating all residents with respect, and informing residents about issues facing the community. All of these were higher than the national benchmark. And Savage also rated in the top 10 based on the Minnesota comparisons on all of those aspects as well. So here's just a little comparison of where we had where we scored high and where some of those that we scored a little bit lower on. So we're doing really well, and 9 out of 10 residents rated their overall feeling of safety as excellent and good. And the feeling of safety from fire, flood, or other natural disaster increased from 2022. Now remember, this survey was done in July, so shortly after the flooding, the spring flooding. So hopefully this is an indication of how residents feel the city handled the communication and the situation about that recent weather event. Overall, the residents rated the quality of development high, as well as planned growth and well-designed neighborhoods. And in contrast to national benchmarks, the availability of affordable quality housing and variety of housing available are both rated higher than the national average, as is the availability of affordable mental health. The lows this year, we saw a downward trend in our drinking water, opportunities to participate in community matters, and how much residents feel connected and engaged with the community. And that may be related to Dan Patch Days being canceled for the last couple of years. That's one of our big community events that brings our community together, and we haven't had that full experience for a couple of years, so we're crossing our fingers for 2025. They also, the vibrancy of the downtown, and also rated much lower than the national benchmark. We ranked 24 out of 25 when we compare ourselves to other Minnesota cities. And lastly, again, the overall quality of recreational opportunities have declined significantly over the last year. So something that we started to look at in 2022, or I should say that the National Research Center started to look at in 2022, was how responses looked for our white alone residents versus our not white alone residents. And that's the way that they categorize it. That's something that comes from the survey company. We can't look at responses specifically by race because the numbers in our community are just too small. But what we continue to see is that there is a difference, a significant difference, or there's a difference and sometimes quite significant. And I think this is a reminder of what the Ready Task Force report showed, that many of our populations of color are still experiencing different experiences than our white residents. One aspect that I did find interesting is that our not white alone residents would be less likely to come to a public meeting such as this, but they would be more likely than our white residents to actually watch it on the website. Like all of the surveys, we do some custom questions, and this year's survey had 3 custom questions and 1 open-ended. The first custom question was, how often do you visit downtown Savage? And that was in preparation of starting the downtown redevelopment plan. So we asked this question in 2022, and then we re-asked it again in 2024. And the answers were very similar. So roughly 2/3 of the people drive through downtown several times a month. Approximately a quarter of them, or 25%, come down to dine a couple of times a month. Roughly 1 in 5 residents comes to the farmers market on a pretty regular basis. Fewer people come down to shop, and only 2% actually access public transportation from the downtown area. Custom question number 2 was a part of the 2022 survey also, and asked about what community events residents have attended in the last 2 years. And by far, the farmers market was the highest attended, both in 2024 and 2022, followed by Dan Patch Days. And then attendance at many of the other community events is pretty similar. A couple of things to note is that in 2024, our Park and Rec department did away with music in the park, and they added a new community-wide event called Treats and Tunes. And that was something that was really successful. It went all throughout the community, and I think really engaged a lot more families. So I do anticipate that trending upwards. So we really don't have any comparisons for that. And then the other one is we did not include Savage Recycling Day in 2022's list, so we only have 1 year of data for that event. Our question 3 was new in 2024, and it focused on the Savage Fen. And the full question was, Savage is home to one of Minnesota's rarest wetlands called the Savage Fen Scientific and Natural Area. This unique natural feature provides significant habitat for a multitude of rare and endangered plants and birds. The Savage Fen is public land owned and managed by the Minnesota DNR. Currently, the site has not been maintained, does not maintain trails or other recreational facilities. And then the question was, how important, if at all, do you consider, 1, continuing to protect and limit access to the natural resource, 2, increase public access to the Fen for recreational activities, or minimize resources and efforts to maintain the Fen? So nearly 80% of the residents indicated that continued protection and limited access to the Savage Fen was essential. Roughly a third thought increasing access was essential or very important. Another third thought it was somewhat important, and roughly 2/3 thought public access was some important. And over 50% indicated that minimizing resources and efforts to maintain the Fen was not a priority. That was a very poorly worded, it was a double negative question. But I think the gist of what we get out of this is that people feel like it is important to maintain the Savage Fen. So lastly, for the past several surveys, we have asked an open-ended question. And that question is, what is one thing you would like the city to improve on? And we had over 200 responses, and the research company kind of grouped them by large categories. We do have a spreadsheet with all of the verbatim comments if that's something that you're interested in seeing. But some of the more common comments were specifically about wanting more affordable housing for families. They wanted a community space, events, splash pad pool, community center. They also, comments talked about improving the downtown area, the character of the downtown, getting rid of the hotel, taxes, more communication about events, more businesses, shopping, restaurants. They mentioned that they do most of their shopping and eating outside of Savage. comments about the internet, the quality, the cost, wanting more options, our water quality. And then just to give you a sense of comparison, last year, the number one kind of big group that the comments fell under was mobility. And that, again, is a really broad category, but it covered things like walking and biking and traffic flow and snow plowing, followed by economic development and then recreation. So there was a little bit of a shift, and very predominantly towards, improving the downtown area and those types of things. So kind of in conclusion, the big takeaways, just to reiterate that, is that revitalizing downtown area is a top priority. Our residents want to see it. They want to see improvements. They want new character, more shopping and dining and getting rid of the hotel. And this is something that the city is currently working on with our new downtown redevelopment plan. Community identity. We've talked about this a lot over the last several years, and part of creating that community identity is helping residents feel like they belong. This is an area that we continue to work on and incorporate in big projects like our downtown redevelopment plan, but as well as some of the smaller projects like the community-focused mural at the library and introducing new community events like Treats and Tunes. Those all also bring the community together and create that feeling of belonging. And then lastly, our parks and our natural areas are two big reasons why people want to live in Savage. And we have a new, well, it's maybe a year or two old, we did a comprehensive park master plan. And that kind of lays out and will guide us on how we can ensure that the wants and the needs and the desires of our community is something that we prepare for and that we plan for. So that concludes my presentation. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Emily. And with all of that material, I just wanted to say and applaud your efforts in just displaying and telling us about the data in a very understandable way. So thank you very much for presenting it the way you did.
You're welcome.
Commissioners, do we have any questions for Emily?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I have multiple questions. Thank you for this presentation and this massive document which I am going through right now. So I have a couple of questions. One is like in your slide 2 or 3, I saw one there were some graph or chart. Health and wellness, that particular thing was mentioned as low importance and quality. So this one. So if I see that the quality is somewhere near to 75% and the importance is low, but I feel that health and wellness should be on the top right. Same thing for education, arts, and culture. Education, arts, and culture is where I feel that because Savage has more than 25% people who are less than 17 years old. So education, arts, and culture, which can bring people together for why we are here for this Community Equity Commission, I feel that it should not be there from quality perspective as well as the importance perspective. So these two particular area which I feel pain to see these two areas in the lower left corner of this particular graph. So that's one point. So if you want to respond, then I can ask the next question.
No, great question. So this chart was created based on the responses from our residents who responded. So they were asked about all of those different facets in two ways. They were asked about rating the quality of the aspect and then how important it was. So our residents are telling us that health and wellness is not as important to them as park and recreation or some of those that are in the upper right-hand corner. So that's how these dots were put into those areas, is based on how residents answered the questions in the survey. Does that help clarify that?
No, absolutely, that helps. But
Okay.
my question is, then in that case, when people feel that health, wellness, or education, arts, or culture, they are not that important for them, is it due to something which is not right, which we need to make right? And if we need to make that thing right, what are those?
Good questions. I think the survey doesn't necessarily provide the answers to that. That might be something that you all discuss.
I think that needs to be one of our agendas for this year, to figure out that why people think that education, arts, culture, or health wellness is not important for them.
Commissioner, now I understand your question, and I see how it is important to look at that and say, well, ask the question, well, why? Why are people saying that it's not? And, as part of the Equity Commission, that's a large part of what we do, looking at culture and arts and bringing people together. So it is a good question. So thank you.
I have a couple of other points too. So I saw in one of the slides that, where we had the surveys that which community event you have attended and you liked. So we know that Dan Patch Day was canceled for the last 2 years, but we saw that people said that 45% of the people went for Dan Patch Days. Is there anything like clerical mistake or something that happened while taking the survey?
Well, it was based on what events you've attended in the past 2 years. So Dan Patch Days was canceled in 23 and 24, but I believe there was Dan Patch Days in 2022. So the numbers are lower. I think that's one of the reasons why overall their participation in Dan Patch Days ranked lower. But in that 2-year period, there was actually one Dan Patch.
Yeah, so my question was like, if we didn't have a Dan Patch Day on 23 and 24, how come 45% people attended that?
I think they're thinking that they came in 2022.
Okay. That makes sense. And the biggest concern, I think that I have to congratulate CT on understanding the future, because when I saw your one of the slides, the vibrancy of downtown and the commercial areas that got the lowest rating, but the city is doing an awesome work on understanding that, and they have already started work on redevelopment of downtown. So I congratulate City of Savage for doing that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Commissioner Schultz, go ahead.
Thank you, Emily. This was fantastic. Thank you so much. Can you, Chris, please go back to the slide that showed how the white and non-white
There we go.
There we go. So a few things that stood out to me was the welcoming residents' involvement. There's a 20% margin between white and non-white, and also openness and acceptance. So those are significant things that stood out to me, and I think that goes to show why the CC is really vital in understanding how can we bridge the gap and bring our community together. And that could be, Commissioner, to what you're talking about, the education, arts, and culture, too. How can we better learn to understand what the barriers are so we can be able to bring our community together. So I think this really speaks volumes to where we are as a community. And I think things like, the mural and how with the library kind of bring people together to see, the community kind of learning about each other and getting together. I think that's a positive way in where we're headed. So I'm interested in seeing, in years to come then, with the work that CC has done in the last year, which I think has done a phenomenal job partnering with the city, where we're going to be moving in terms of the data. So thank you for that.
Madam Chair and Commission, I'd like to speak something kind of exciting about that. Is it's cool that we now have this kind of base level. I feel like you've heard me say that a lot in the last couple months, that we can start tracking that. What you'll see later on in this agenda is some items on our work plan for 2025 that specifically sort of talk to and work towards those. So it'll be fun to sort of track if we're making an impact in the community. So I'm excited you highlighted that. It's fun that we also have some things that we can do and start working on to directly address these.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. Commissioner Lewis Miller.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Emily, my question is, when are we doing this survey again? Is it every 2 years or 3 or?
Commissioner Lewis Miller, it is typically 2 years. So we plan on doing it again in 2026.
Good. So this is what I call the opportunity gap. So we see where there are some areas of work, and this commission is in place to help push some of that. So based on what's been shared in the last 2 slides, we know that there are things yet to improve on. And we just have to find ways to tap into those and tap into resources to find ways to lift some of these percentages up. So it'll be interesting to see where we're going to be in another 2 years.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Nelson, you?
I just wanted to make a comment so we all stick it in the back of our heads that when it comes time again to put together budget requests for city council, that we pull some of this data back out so that we aren't always trying to make something out of nothing. But now let's return to the survey and consider that when we do our requests.
Excellent point. Yep. Commissioner Macias, yes.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Emily, for your feedback. This is wonderful. It's fun to see data, right? But data does not become information until we interpret that. If I can ask you 2 quick questions. Was there something that really was a surprise, both in the positive side and on the negative? Something that the city we were not expecting to see that was eye-opening, both on the good side and something that went the wrong way. If you can expand on that.
Oh, good question. Nothing comes to mind. I mean, I think one of the positive surprises is how highly they rated local government and governance. Just in today's climate, that is pretty hard to get. People to think that government is always working in their best interest. So I think that was surprising a little bit, that it was really high for the city of Savage. On the negative side, I think at first I was very alarmed by how low our parks and recreation programs and centers and facilities were rated, because again, that's our crown jewel. We love our parks and our community. You know, that's part of the reason why a lot of people want to come and live in Savage. But we knew that. We know that we have an aging infrastructure in our parks and rec, and that's one of the reasons that drove the park master plan. So we're moving towards action on how to fix that. So I think our Parks and Rec and Public Works people aren't surprised by that. They kind of knew we need to pay attention to all of our current infrastructure and make sure that we have a way to maintain it and to continually improve it. So.
Thank you. I was in the Parks Commission for 9 years, and I was surprised to see it being that low. Thanks.
But you should not be surprised with how people rated the government. The government is doing awesome work, and you should be proud of that. You should not be surprised.
I am proud to work for the city of Savage.
Say, Madam Chair and Commission, this is the 4th city I've worked at. I can tell you those other cities would not get the same number, I would say, from the community, and they're doing a lot of great work too. So I was relatively new when we got this, and it's exciting to see so much support from the community for the work that we're doing.
And I will also say a large part of that is kudos to the communications department, because a lot of what's good's happening is coming through you guys. So thank you for your work and sharing that good news and having good rapport with the community. So, yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more comments, commissioners, or questions? All right, go ahead, Commissioner Chatterjee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In your first slide, you have mentioned that we received 28 lower ratings than the last year. So if possible, if you can share that which 28 ratings we are talking about and what are the different action plans for each rating, or if anything that Community Equity Commission can help to grow in those 28, should be in the first slide.
Are you talking about these? So this is where we compare ourselves on a national basis. This is compared to other Minnesota communities. And this is
this one I
compared
was
to
talking about.
the lower ratings.
Right.
Gotcha.
So if we can get those details for these 28 lower rating areas and what action items which city is taking and what Community Equity Commission can do to help.
I think all of that should be in the report. You should be able to kind of see that in the full report that you saw, which ones are, I think there's an indication with an arrow next to it, whether or not it went up or down. I don't think it's probably realistic to have an action plan for each of those 28 listing or ratings. I think what this council and what staff is looking at are kind of what are the priority areas, and we're looking back at that matrix where what is our community feeling is the most important place that we should be spending our resources. So I think that's how we kind of use that information to kind of prioritize, because it'd be great to address all 28 of them, but I don't know if realistically we have the resources to do that. So we have to kind of look at what does the community and where does the community want us to use our resources most efficiently.
Sure, thank you.
Commissioner John Gress.
To kind of follow up on that, the ratings were, if it was 10-point change, it was high or low, and if it was 20 or more, it was much or higher or lower. And the difference between 22 and 24 was a difference of 6%, was based on the information in the packet. Okay. And so the connection to community was down, what had 59 to 49, so it was probably like 9.5 or something like that, because it was rated as similar. So it was very close to being low. That's just a side comment, not my actual comment. My question to you was, on your last comment, talking about looking at the things of high importance, but should there be a focus on where the quality doesn't match the importance level, where things are maybe lower than where the quality of things doesn't actually match the importance level?
Commissioner John Gress, absolutely. And again, that on this matrix, the things that are in the upper right hand are the things that people feel are really important to them, but they also give them really high quality. So anything above that median line is what they, or the, I'm sorry, it would be to the left of the vertical line are things that are lower quality, but there's nothing in that. They think it's really super important, but it's low quality. So,
sorry, I was looking at the gap analysis specifically, so I was looking at the actual numbers. I'm sorry.
oh,
not the
okay.
chart.
I'm sorry. So that's, I think, how that gets interpreted visually to show kind of that level of importance and where we should be spending our resources.
Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Ahmed.
I just have a quick really comment, not a question. When I looked at this, I did read through this completely. Everything here is pretty straightforward in terms of what it is and what it's telling us. I think the one that are a little bit soft is the community design and community identity in terms of what does it really mean, how do you address it. So I'd be eager to understand that a little bit more later on in some of our future meetings. What is the city going to do about that? You know, safety and parks and economy and mobility is pretty straightforward, but the community design and community identity is a little bit nebulous. So just want to mention that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any more questions or comments?
Great job.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you so much, Emily. I guess we can move back in our agenda to the item for oaths of office. And I'm going to hand it over to Chris to do that. And
Chair and
thank you again
Commission.
for signing up to do it again this year.
Yes, I'd like to thank everyone. This is an interesting opportunity where we don't have any new members. We just have reappointments. That's exciting because we can continue the great work we've been doing for the last couple of years. So very excited there. Per city ordinance, all commissioners must take an oath of office. I should have provided all the reappointed commissioners' oath of offices. If you could I did a funny thing and gave out all my copies of the oath of office. Let me pull one up really quick. What I'll have you do is raise your right hand and read the oath of office with me. And please insert your name. Where it should appear. One sec. My internet is not working. There we go. All right. So please repeat after me. I state your name.
Gail Lewis Miller,
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
support the Constitution of the United States,
that I
I
will
will
support the
Constitution of the United States,
of the State of Minnesota,
Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of the Community Equity Commission
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of the Community Commission of the
City of Savage, County of Scott, and State of Minnesota, to which I have been appointed to the best of my knowledge and ability.
County of Scott,
and State of
and State of
Minnesota,
Minnesota, to which I have been appointed to the best of my knowledge and ability.
Wonderful. Congratulations, everyone. You can make sure I get those so we can get them processed by our notary. Then you'll be good to go.
All right, so the next agenda item is the election of chair and vice chair. And Chris, if I may, I would like to take a minute, just a moment for, maybe it's not, in the agenda, but I do want to just say it has been an honor to serve you guys and to lead with you guys for the past 2 years as the chair. I have learned a lot. You guys are an amazing team. Thank you for putting up with me, for learning all these things, how to run this meeting. And then also just all the ideas and support that you guys have given throughout the 2 years that we've been here. So I just wanted to take that opportunity to thank you. I also want to share that a principle of mine and a perspective of mine is to share leadership responsibility and to also pass on the baton for those who are willing. And so tonight I want to also just remove my name for consideration for nomination. And then I would like to also put my support and second the nomination for Commissioner Lewis Miller for chair tonight. But I will pass it off to Chris to go ahead and do that, and you can remove my name for consideration. So thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Chair and Commission, we're looking to select the Chair and Vice Chair for 2025 for the Community Equity Commission. This officer will serve for 1 year, and their terms will begin at the next meeting. Alternates and youth members may not serve as chairperson or vice chairperson, but may vote for the chair and vice at this meeting. The duties of the chair and vice are included below. The chairperson shall have the following responsibilities: open the meeting at the appointed time, and after confirming a quorum is present, call the meeting to order. Announce in proper sequence the business that comes before the Community Equity Commission. Recognize members who are entitled to the floor. State and put to vote all questions that come before the Community Equity Commission as motions or that arise in the course of proceedings. Protect the Community Equity Commission from frivolous or dilatory motions by refusing to recognize them. Expedite business in every way compatible with the rights of members and citizens, and decide all questions of order. Duties of the vice chairperson are the same as above when the chairperson cannot take on that role. Nominations, as I mentioned in my email, I think last week, have been sent to me. There's a number of nominations. When I received them, I reached out to those individuals to see if they had an interest in serving that role. Most people did not have an interest. Our current nomination for vice is Gail Lewis Miller. Do you accept that nomination?
Yes, I'll accept the nomination.
Chair and Commission, what I would recommend is that we put this to a vote. I do have paper if we want to do a secret vote, but I think we could probably do a voice vote here.
Point of clarification, are we voting on vice chair at this point?
Madam Chair and Commission, we'll vote on just the chair at this moment, and then I'll also introduce who was nominated for the vice chair.
I believe you said vice chair earlier,
Oh,
so I was confused.
My apologies.
Oh.
Yep,
So we're voting for chair.
voting for chair.
And are there any more nominations that were accepted? Because if there are no nominations that were accepted.
Madam Chair and Commission, there is no more nominations accepted for chair.
Excellent. So do we need to vote? So we just put our support, or should we go ahead and vote anyway?
Chair and Commission, we would still need to vote
Okay.
for Gail to be the chair.
Okay.
Need a motion.
Yes, why don't we put a motion on the table for that?
Commissioner Nelson, I would move that we nominate Commissioner Gail Lewis Miller to the position of chair.
Commissioner Chatterjee, I second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. All right, congratulations, Chair Lewis Miller.
All right, Madam Chair and Commission. Second up is nominations for the duty of vice chairperson. Again, I received some nominations. And I reached out to those individuals. The only one who is interested in continuing to be in that role, is Commissioner Schultz. So, Commissioner Schultz, do you accept the nomination for the vice chair?
I do.
As I mentioned, Chair and Commission, there is no other nominations accepted for the vice chair.
All right, we'll do the same process again. Is there a motion to support that nomination?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to accept the nomination of Commissioner Schultz.
All right, is there a second?
I second it.
Commissioner Ahmed? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. All right, congratulations, Vice Chair Commissioner Schultz. All right, excellent. So we'll continue on tonight, and then the next meeting, Chair Lewis Miller will be leading. So thank you. So we have already received our presentation of the 2024 community survey results. The next item is going to have, we're going to have an update on the partnership with the Savage Rotary for installation of peace poles in Savage. So I'll give it to you, Chris.
Let me just make sure it's up. Good to go.
Oh, that's right.
All right, good evening. I'm going to go through 6 items. I'm going to explain what is a peace pole and why, talk a little bit about funding and timing. I'll talk about the partnerships and the work that you've done so far, what the plans are for the peace poles, and I do have a couple of specific requests for the CEC, and then I'll take some questions at the end, all right? So what is a peace pole? It's a simple pole that the Rotary Club sponsors that is now probably in every country in the world. It says, "May peace prevail on earth." It's in different languages, and it's really an affirmation of peace, and it supports Rotary's goal of in building a culture of peace throughout the world. I went online and took some examples. You see on the top, the Anchor Bay High School in Michigan did that as a project right in front of their building. On the left, you see a club in Canada did that as part of a park system. And here's somebody in Nepal in the Himalayas put one up. And then if you go on the top left side, you see one in California where they turned a trail into a nice sitting area with some benches and so forth. And Janesville, Wisconsin claims they have the tallest peace pole in the world, of course. And then even in survey and so forth. And even the businesses do that. If you look at the Ben and Jerry's ice cream factory, they have that. And in Thailand, River Kwai. So it's really all over the world. So as we looked at it from the Rotary Club, we said, where's the money going to come from? This project has been fully funded by the Rotary Club of Savage. We got into a partnership with the Burnsville Breakfast Rotary Club, and then we applied for a grant from Rotary International. So all the money has been come in. So this project is not going to cost anything to the city of Savage per se. And the funds have been secured by December 31st, and the project is a fast-paced project. We expect to get it done by the end of May of really this year. We have to wait till the ground thaws and so forth. So how did we do this? How did this come about? The partnerships, like I mentioned, with the Rotary Club International District, the foundation, it was a grant application. And then what was beautiful for me personally was the partnership that I saw with the City of Savage, the Public Works and the CEC here, the Communications Department, the Park and Rec, the library, and then Administration City Council all have been really part of this process. So that makes me feel really good. We formed an application team, myself, Gail, and Yvonne Anderson, who is our treasurer for the Rotary Club, was really part of the main application team. And on the project team, we had the names you see there. It also included the Rotarians on the top, but also Greg Boatman and Trent and Chris Swanson and Emily as part of the core team. And they have been instrumental in helping us develop the plans and also the partnership. Plans for the peace polls. So we're looking at 3 different locations. There'll be 3 polls. And one planned one is in the city main hall right in front of the entrance. And this would be on the south side of the main real entrance of the city hall. And there's already an existing landscape, so the amount of work will be very minimal. The second location is front of the library. And you already have a little place, you see the star there on the top. It's in the middle of a circle of trees. And we are going to add a bench there. And then we are also paying for an ADA-approved path. So somebody who needs to use that on a wheelchair or something can actually access that. And then you're going to have a nice little bench to sit there and maybe have lunch or kind of reflect or whatever. And then the third location is in the Savage Community Park, right next to the pickleball courts and close to the picnic shelter there, and that location will also have a bench. So requests, there are 2. We have a request on the languages for some input and some really community events. Let me explain what those are. So each poll has space for 8 different languages. And as we talked about it, talked to the city, and we looked at the population, and the suggestion was made that each poll include, all of the polls include English, Spanish, and Dakota. And then if you have 3, you still have 15 more languages that are available. So then we went and did all kinds of looks at the feedback, the population, the national population, Savage population. And I think what we came up with were these 15 languages in Somali, Laotian, Vietnamese, Chinese, Cambodian, Arabic, Portuguese, Hindi, French, Bengali, Hmong, Urdu, German, Japanese, and Nigerian. So my request number 1 to the CEC is to think about that. And if you have any questions, you can ask me later on at the end, or if you have any feedback, you can send us an email and see what you think of those. These, we put a significant amount of time with the planning team to come up with those. So that was one really request. And the second request is when we unveil the polls, it's a significant opportunity in my mind to have a community celebrations. We talked about a sense of belonging. We talked about what brings people really together, and who could argue about peace, right? And so the question is, how do we reach out to the different community members to be a part of this, and what should we plan for the opening ceremony per se? And top of my head, I haven't talked to anybody here yet, but really Rotary Club are going to have some dignitaries from the Rotary International. I think we should find a way to invite all the other community groups or clubs, whoever wants to show up. There will be an opportunity for some elbow grease per se in terms of having a participation. Have some pictures, maybe. So what I'm looking for is for the CEC members to partner with the Rotary Club and with the city to help us define and bring in the community and turn this into a celebration. And then the timing is relatively short because I think as soon as the ground thaws, the work will start. The poles will show up here somewhere in March timeframe. I'm assuming installation will be sometime in April or so. But we need to get it done by the end of May because we are on a granting time cycle. And then the second piece of something for the CEC to consider is September 21st is really an International Day of Peace globally. And so I thought about that. I said, okay, if we're going to have an opening ceremony in May, maybe in 2025, it wouldn't make sense to have a Peace Day celebration. It's just in a few months later. But maybe starting in 2026, maybe we consider to use that date as an event that we sponsor and do something. So those are the two really requests I have for the CAC. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Ahmed. This is a great opportunity, and I really thank you and applaud you and your team as well for just bringing this to Savage.
Total team effort.
I have two questions for you. One, how tall is Janesville, their pole, and can we beat it? Just kidding. And the second question is, the criteria that was used to select English, Spanish, and the Dakota languages, I'm wondering what they are and if we can use that to apply to the question you're asking about what languages that we might have in mind for the poll. So what criteria did you guys use to come up with those three languages, and then maybe we can apply that same lens?
I'll say what I thought, and then I'll ask Chris to respond as well. We looked at what are the languages that is most common, and for sure English is part of that. And then we also look at the population. Spanish is a big part of our languages within the state. And the Dakota came in from the history of the city, of the land, to really acknowledge that more of a historical aspect as being a good neighbor to the population that we have here. Chris, you have anything else to add?
Madam Chair and Commission, the Janesville Peace Pole is 52 feet tall.
Thank you.
But yeah, I think that's a great summary. So we basically looked at where people in this community came from, what people in this community are speaking now, and then we also looked at what Minnesota, kind of what we're seeing in trends, and then kind of nationally too. And we think this kind of captures a good group of people who may end up in our parks or around our public buildings and will help them feel a belonging here. So that's how we came to these numbers after many discussions and back and forth emails. We think this is a good snapshot of the community and Minnesota in particular. So,
Great. Yes, Commissioner Nelson, go ahead.
Just a quick question. Will the polls be identical, or will there be certain languages added to one poll, different languages added to another poll?
Each poll has space for 8 languages, eight sentences. All 3 of them will have the Spanish, English, and Dakota. So then we have 15 other languages, so it'll be different languages in each poll.
Very good. That's more
It would be
opportunities.
6 times 3 is 18.
Thank you.
Excellent. Yes, Commissioner Schultz.
Go ahead.
This was phenomenal. I love this idea. I love the fact that you even have the ADA for like the wheelchair ramp, because I think that's something sometimes it's lacking in just broadly. So I think that's excellent. So one of the things I don't know if Nigerian is actually a language. I think Nigerian is a country in Africa, and there are so many other languages. So in terms of those other languages, and then is sign language something that can be added? Because just so we can capture like the disability community, maybe someone who doesn't speak but can see sign language. I don't know if that's something that we can incorporate in part of the 8. Just something to think about.
Sign language, okay. The polls are coming from a Rotary department in California. They sent me a list of languages available. I did not see the sign language there, but they did have a sign that said that they can order special things if you want. So I can look into that if a sign language is available.
Madam Chair and Commission, what we may want to do, recognizing that Nigerian is not a language, is we may want to see if we could swap out either sign language or maybe Braille, I think was mentioned in prior conversations, for that language to sort of capture and represent that community. I think if the CEC is supportive of that, we can explore that option.
Great questions. Juan has.
Yeah, thank you. I was going to ask, what's the criteria to pick the spot, the like, geographical location?
The Rotary Club came to the city, and we were looking for maximum visibility, and also strictly mostly visibility. We also wanted a bench, not in all places, in some places where as people are walking and they can use it, they can sit and basically they can reflect. So the one in the front of the city hall is just an entrance, but both at the library and also at the park, it's right next to existing trails. So it was strictly about where do we get the most really traffic, is really where that came from.
Madam Chair and Commission, that's exactly it. We want to say what's the most visibility along with most traffic. I also think we wanted some space that people can have the time to sit there and sort of think about that. You know, we're not going to, if you want most visibility, we could put it next to Highway 13. Probably not a great spot for a peace poll. So I think these are really the City Hall is the seat of the city power. Community Park is our most visited and used park. And the library is probably one of the most visited buildings in Savage. So I think that's why we selected those locations.
Yeah, thank you. Such a cool initiative, such an inclusive approach. I hope that we can celebrate this in 2025 and not wait one more year.
Thank you.
Commissioner John Gress, yes.
Thank you. I had, I guess, two questions, comments. With at least one of these, will there be an explanation as to what they are next to them? So someone who comes up to them with absolutely no idea what's going on. And since you mentioned Braille earlier, I was going to say something about for those that are, vision impaired, that they would be able to find out what they are without actually being able to see them.
I'll answer it two different ways. Each of the polls will, the benches will have a QR code, and the QR code will take it straight to the Rotary Club of Savage website. They will explain there, so there will be one. We didn't have enough funding to come up with a separate sign that really explains all of that. We can look into that, but right now the current funding is not enough to really do that.
Okay. And I guess my second comment would be on the write-up in our agenda, there was a link to the languages spoken of our community. Maybe for the one in front of the library, since it's one of the more visited buildings in the county, maybe we can expand that to the county and maybe it would show some different languages as an idea or something like that. That's just throwing it out there, though.
Sorry, I didn't understand that.
So one of the criteria was looking at the languages in the city of Savage.
Yep.
And the demographics page pulled that up. Maybe potentially you can look at expanding that to the actual county or something like that.
Sure. All right.
And maybe
Thank
it
you.
would show a little something different.
All right. One other thing that I wanted to add is we picked 3 locations. We went back and forth. Do we have 5 poles and 1 chair? Or, so we came up with 2 chairs and 3 poles. And so this is not showing up in all the parks, obviously. So if down the road, certain groups or certain community wants to add 1, 2 more in any different parks, I'm sure we can really find it. These poles themselves only cost $325. So it's not a whole lot of money, but we wanted to see and use the funding that we had that had the biggest impact right now, and if we wanted to expand it later on, we can.
Yes, Commissioner Chatterjee.
Yeah. So first of all, I want to congratulate on this. This is a very, very great initiative, and I want to congratulate all of you who were involved to make this successful. Even though, as you mentioned, that the poll doesn't cost much, but your time, effort, and the intention costs huge, huge, huge. So I really want to congratulate. Second thing which I wanted to talk about, you said about the visibility. So are we going to use any kind of focus lights on that? Because if you have a white pole with some focus lights, that can be visible from distance, even during nights.
Great idea. We will take that back to the team. You know, light would be pretty simple. You can have a solar powered, great idea. All right, we'll look into that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair and Commissioner, I just wanted to sort of like note one more thing. I think this is such a great project to follow Emily's presentation because again, this kind of gets back to the inclusivity and gets back to that community design. It's like we were kind of building what we want to be thinking, what we want people to experience in the parks through the projects like these. So just continuing to have that conversation and continue to have projects going up and things out there, I think we'll see those numbers grow in future surveys. So it's exciting to sort of see how these things align with kind of where we want to go.
If I may add, I had no idea what this was. I was on a hike in UK and I saw this pole and I said, what is that? And I started digging and here we are. So yeah.
Oh, so this is your idea. Well, great.
No, it's not my
Well,
idea, but I just saw
You
it. and
brought
I
it to
said,
the
you know,
city.
what is this? So yeah.
No, great, great.
Any other
Yes.
questions?
Commissioner Lewis Miller?
So we do know there are many peace polls around the state. Are we looking for any type of feedback from the commission as far as priority of languages right now? Just to get their suggestions or feedback?
What we were looking for is the team has come up with the languages that I have listed. If you have any suggestions on what other things that are missing, we only have 18.
Right.
The choices are if you want 5 more languages, then it's a suggestion that we have to drop 5 and put those on, or we add 1 more poll somewhere else. So those are the choices. But we'd love to hear the feedback from you, yes.
Great.
Madam Chair and Commission, what it sounded like from the prior discussion was to maybe look at dropping Nigerian and to explore the opportunity for either American Sign Language or Braille.
And I have a comment because I'm obligated. I am married to a Nigerian, so I will say my husband would be very proud of me if I suggested Igbo as one of the languages. Of course, there are many languages in Nigeria, but Igbo is spelled I-G-B-O, so you can put that on the list if you care. But yes, I think Braille would also be an excellent option as well. So,
Okay.
any
Anything
more
else?
comments or suggestions about the languages?
So before I go, my second question of how does the CEC participate in partnering with the Rotary Club to turn this into a celebration for the community?
Chair and Commission, what I recommended in the staff report is that if you have an interest in being involved in the planning of this event or even just attending or participating, you do it not as CEC members, but as just residents. I think that's a little bit more flexibility for planning and support and kind of what you can and cannot do. If you're not operating as a CEC member, you have a lot more ability to go and really support that. So that would be my recommendation. If the CEC does want to create a subcommittee or kind of work directly with Sharif on the planning, we can look at that too. I do think that will be more work for this commission to get an exciting event.
If I may add, what I was specifically thinking of was we don't know at the Rotary Club how to reach out to the Somali group or all kinds of groups out there. And that's the help that I'm looking for. You know, one easy way would be to send an email to all the clubs in town and say, hey, you know, come and help. But I'm thinking a little bit more really intentional, you know, who are we reaching out? You know, what are we asking? How do we spread the word? You know, Emily has graciously agreed to help us with the marketing part of that and the communication, but.
And I know that this has been a question we've asked in a lot of our meetings about engagement, and I think it would be really helpful to produce a list of organizations and groups that represent diversity in our community so that we can always rely on that. Maybe that'd be something, one of our projects that we do in the next few months, just to create that list. And we can do it, you know, grassroots style, not through CEC, but that's just an opportunity. Commissioner Chatterjee?
Small suggestion here. Because every poll is going to have 8 different languages. So why not 8 different people who speaks those languages, they inaugurate the poll? Like they light a torch or something while doing the inauguration. So that way 8 people at library, 8 people here, and 8 people in the park. So total 24 people speaking different languages are going to inaugurate that.
So thank you for volunteering to be on the team.
Thank you. Yeah, excellent. Awesome.
Can I add one more?
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner.
And I just want to make sure the Peace Bowl is for everybody. And so this includes the white community for sure, right? So I don't want to be misconstrued that we're only trying to reach the Somalis or the minority groups. The reason why I'm thinking about that, just from the survey and just from everything else we have seen, those groups sometimes don't know what is going on or don't show up. So that's where the outreach is coming from. But this is for everybody, entire community. So, yeah.
Madam Chair, Commission, the city is a partner, so we will utilize our resources when it comes time to promote this event. So again, kind of if you have specific groups or people you think we should be reaching out to within that process, send that information our way. We'll start compiling that list. We love lists in government because it makes it easier for us to reach out to people. So feel invited to do that.
Awesome.
Any other questions? All right. Oh,
Yes, Commissioner Schultz.
Just quick comment. I think houses of faith are always a good place to start. With outreach is what I would suggest. I know we have like a Buddhist temple somewhere here. There's, the churches, mosques around here. That might be a good place to start.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right. So our third item on our agenda of business is to review and adopt the 2025 Community Equity Commission Work Plan, and I hope you guys were able to skim it or review it. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Chris to give us a summary, and we can discuss. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commission. So this will be the third time this commission has seen the 2025 work plan. Kind of as a quick, brief reminder, a lot of these items are based on actions identified through the Ready Work Plan. What you will see in front of you in the graph is the items that have been added are in yellow. The items that we have accomplished are in green. And the items that are still in progress with kind of no changes other than sort of additional tracking are in white. Just for a note, so the green items, some of these are accomplished, but they're just kind of stuff that the city will continue to do year over year, particularly the education, outreach to schools, stuff like that. By us saying it's accomplished, it's not saying, and we'll never do it again. It's just, this is kind of now our standard practice. I also wanted to note too that we did bring the integrated social worker, and I want to have them at some point during this year to present kind of what they have been doing. I think in November, I presented you the numbers that we've seen, but I think it'd be a really great experience to kind of see what she is experiencing and kind of get the summary of what that job is like day to day on the street. So I hope to schedule a presentation to this group sometime this year. So one of the things that I've also noted is some of the items added in yellow are items that were identified through the 2025 budget process. So those are items that will be kind of CEC led. And then there's a number of items too here. One is reaching out to businesses. Number 2 is reaching out to local residents as kind of a welcome packet and kind of building that process. And then a couple items in terms of building our base demographics for commissioners, new commissioner applicants, and then updating the commission process that are staff led. And to that point, this has actually been integrated in our staff work plans. So it's not just the CEC driving this. Staff is now accountable to these items that I have listed here. So at that point, I'd love to open it up for questions. I know we've discussed this a number of times, but I think this is a lot of work that we have in front of us for 2025. I do also think that we can get a lot of this done.
Thank you so much, Chris. Commissioners, questions or comments? Commissioner Chatterjee, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Commissioner. Chris, I have a very small request. No questions, just a suggestion. The amber items, whatever is marked in progress, we know that the target date we are not going to fill. So if you can cross the target date and provide a new target date, that would be great.
Chair and Commission, so my apologies, I didn't update some of these target dates. For the greens completed, I will also take them off of this document. But yes, I will update the target date. So my apologies.
No problem. Thank you, Chris.
Chris, if I may, I think it's actually helpful to have the ones that are in green. Personally, it's like a checklist to see what we have done. I don't know, it's a progress. I don't know how you guys feel. It's nice to see the green.
Madam Chair and Commission, maybe what I can do is I'll work on because I still want to capture and I still want to sort of have what we have. Maybe what I'll do is I'll also have what we've accomplished as sort of a secondary graph, because I think that's a fun way for us to track it too.
Perfect.
That's your advertisement for the community.
Can you repeat that? Sorry.
I said that's your advertisement for the community. You may need to reach out to the community and say that, okay, we completed these things.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think I think that's an exciting thing is, commissions, a lot of times they review and respond. The CEC is doing this work. We're getting stuff done. I know when we met with a number of the other equity commissions in New Brighton some months ago, the fact that this commission's been around for 2 years and has done all these things, there are some people who are jealous, to say the least. So it's great. I'm excited to continue this work in 2025.
Any more comments or questions?
I just have a comment.
Yes, Commissioner Schultz.
Yeah, I just want to say that I am very proud of all of you commissioners. Just having this commission the last couple of years, and Chris, Emily, I think, Chris, you're right, phenomenal work has been done. There's obviously more to be done, but I think from where we came from, we should all be proud of, as residents of Savage, how far we have come as a community and what the work that has been done and is continuing to be done. I think we should applaud the community for and the city for what you have done so far. So.
Any more comments, questions? If not, we'll go ahead and move on to our item D, our last item on business for tonight, and that is to review the proclamation schedule for 2025.
Chair and Commission, one question. I would ask that the CEC adopts this work plan, maybe
sorry.
with
Yes.
updated due dates, just so that we have this set so we can work towards it.
Thank you, Chris. All right, is there a motion to adopt this work plan for 2025?
I make a motion to adopt this work plan for 2025 with updated due dates.
All right. Is there a second?
Commissioner Nelson, I second that motion.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you so much. Now we're going to move on to item D, which is to review the proclamation schedule for 2025. And I'll hand it to Chris.
Chair and Commission, this is just more of an FYI, reminding the Commission that we have set a proclamation schedule. I think in 2023 and 2024, the CEC worked on this. It was adopted by Council early 2024. What we have identified is for observances is Juneteenth, Welcome Week, a land acknowledgement annually, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and then Black History Month. So this is more of an FYI. We have great proclamations that we will continue to use in the future for these events. So this is just kind of a staff update on this, and just to remind people that we'll be asking members of the CEC to be in attendance at those events if they're able to, and I will be the one to remind folks about that. So more of just an FYI.
Perfect. Any questions or comments about the proclamation schedule? All right, well, we can move on to informational updates. And we're going to start off with informational updates from Chris.
Wonderful. Madam Chair and Commission, we will have the work session discussion. Council wanted to talk a little bit more about the display of flag policy. That is actually been moved to the April 14th work session meeting. The upcoming one that it was scheduled at was going to be a very, very long meeting, so I didn't feel like it'd be great if a commissioner had to sit through probably maybe hours of discussion. So I just wanted to say April 14th is when that will be discussed next. I want to extend the invitation. Gail, I know you're going to try to be there the first time. If you're available April 14th, to invite you to sit and be part of that conversation with our council about the flag policy. So just updating the CEC with that. Our city engineer wanted to remind people we have an open house for Highway 13 improvements, March 18th, from 4:30 to 6:30. Says presentation will start at 5. That's at the Savage Library. The Community Mural Input Workshop on February 22nd is from 10 a.m. to noon at the Savage Library. And then the 4 hands-on mosaic making workshops. I have the details at we have the details at letstalksavage.com, but I also printed them out. The first mosaic making workshop is April 3rd, the second's the 5th, the 4th is the 10th, and the final one is April 12th. So if you want to attend, please sign up on Let's Talk Savage. So that's exciting. I think we're already getting bites and people interested, so sign up soon. I'll also send a reminder email to folks about that tomorrow. And I believe those are my updates.
All right, commissioners, do we have any informational updates?
I have one.
Yes, Commissioner Schultz.
I have one. This coming Saturday, February 15th, is Minnesota, it's Polar Plunge in Prior Lake. I believe it's at the Sandpoint Beach. And the Polar Plunge is to help raise funds for Special Olympics. So it creates opportunities for all athletes, regardless of ability or disability, to participate. And I believe we have Savage firefighters and police officers who are also taking the plunge. So you can go and support them, donate, or you can show up, but it's on Saturday, and I think it's at noon.
Madam Chair and Commission, I will also send out that invite too. Thank you for reminding me.
Any more commissioners? Any updates? I will say that myself and several commissioners attended the MLK / Prior Lake event, Prior Lakes High School event, to celebrate our winners. So that was a wonderful event and a wonderful opportunity to celebrate our youth in our community. So that was great. All right, if there are no more informational updates, is there a motion to adjourn for tonight?
I make a motion to adjourn today's CEC meeting.
All right, anyone second?
Seconded.
All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. All right, we'll see you next time.
Congratulations.